west again on 66 to Gallup, and there's the border of New Mexico. People in flight along 66, and the concrete road shone like a mirror under the sun.
Welcome to Glenrio, Texas, a small abandoned town with a rich history nestled on the border of Texas and New Mexico. Originally a railroad town, Glenrio would become a thriving small town during the boom years of Route 66. Glenrio has witnessed the rise and fall of America's most iconic highway firsthand. Join me as I explore the fascinating journey of this unique town and its enduring legacy on Route 66. In the early 20th century, Glenrio, Texas emerged as a vital stop along the Rock Island and Pacific Railroad. Originally known as Rock Island, the village was renamed Glenrio in 1908, a name derived from the Gaelic word glen, meaning valley, and rio, meaning river, though there is no valley or river in the town. This picturesque name added an air of charm to the small railroad stop. The transformation from a railroad town to a bustling hub for early motorists began in 1917, when Glenrio started receiving travelers along the Ozark Trail. This was a time when automobiles were becoming more popular, and the need for marked and maintained roads was becoming increasingly evident. The Ozark Trail was one of the first efforts to establish a network of roads connecting various states, including Texas and New Mexico. These roads were often unpaved, rough, and dusty, a far cry from the smooth highways we know today. Glenrio's original structures reflected the modest beginnings of this burgeoning community. Adobe buildings, a common construction style in the Southwest, dotted the landscape. One notable structure from this era was the circa 1910 Angel House. These buildings served the early settlers and travelers, providing essential services and a place to rest. The Ozark Trail played a crucial role in Glenrio's early development. This trail was more than just a road. It was a symbol of progress and the transition from horse-drawn buggies to automobiles. The trail was marked with green and white concrete obelisks, guiding motorists through the vast, open landscapes of Texas and New Mexico. By 1919, these markers stood proudly along the route through Glenrio, signaling the town's importance as a waypoint for weary travelers. Glenrio's strategic location on the Ozark Trail brought a steady stream of motorists who needed fuel, food, and lodging. This influx of travelers spurred the growth of local businesses catering to their needs. The Glenrio Hotel, established during this time, began welcoming guests traveling by automobile. The dusty, crooked path of the Ozark Trail, with its square turns and unpredictable conditions, may have been challenging, but it did not deter the adventurous spirit of early motorists. By the early 1920s, Glenrio had established itself as a key stop on the Ozark Trail, setting the stage for even greater changes to come. The arrival of U.S. Route 66 in 1926 would transform this small village into a thriving community. On November 11, 1926, a significant transformation took place when the Ozark Trail was incorporated into the U.S. highway system as Route 66. This marked the beginning of Glenrio's golden era. Route 66, later known as the Mother Road, quickly became one of the most iconic highways in the United States, stretching from Chicago, Illinois to Santa Monica, California. Glenrio's strategic position on this historic route brought prosperity and growth, turning it into a bustling oasis for travelers. By the 1930s, Route 66 was fully paved, transforming into a smooth, two-lane road that captivated motorists from across the country. Glenrio capitalized on this newfound accessibility, evolving into a vibrant hub of activity. Several gas stations, restaurants, and motels sprang up to serve the endless stream of travelers. The community was thriving, with local businesses flourishing and the town's population growing. Glenrio's unique position on the Texas-New Mexico border led to some interesting business practices and regulations. For example, all fuel was dispensed in Texas due to higher gasoline taxes in New Mexico. Conversely, the State Line Bar and Motel were built on the New Mexico side of the town because Deaf Smith County in Texas was dry, prohibiting the sale of alcohol. This dual state dynamic created a distinctive local culture and an array of services straddling the border. The community's infrastructure also expanded during this time. The railroad station remained in Texas, while the post office, built around 1935, was located in New Mexico. A water tank and windmill constructed around 1945 in New Mexico supplied the town's needs. Glenrio earned the title of the first motel in Texas and the last motel in Texas, with the Homer Erisman's family-run State Line Cafe and gas station established in 1953, and the Texas Longhorn Motel opened in 1955. These motels served as welcoming havens for travelers journeying along Route 66. The constant flow of traffic along Route 66 ensured that Glenrio remained busy and thriving throughout the mid-20th century. Former resident John Paul Ferguson fondly recalled the daytime traffic, with cars lined up 5 or 6 in a row waiting to get gas at any time. As the 1950s rolled into the 1960s, Glenrio continued to grow. The town's popularity was further cemented when portions of John Steinbeck's The Grapes of Wrath were filmed in Glenrio, capturing the essence of the Dust Bowl era and the significance of Route 66 as a symbol of hope and migration. In the Pixar movie Cars, when Lightning McQueen wakes up in the impound lot, he briefly sees an abandoned building. This building was heavily modeled after the Glenrio Motel. Route 66 was more than just a road. It was a cultural phenomenon. It became a symbol of freedom, adventure, and the promise of the open road. Songs like Get Your Kicks On, Route 66 by Bobby Troup, popularized by Nat King Cole, and the Route 66 television series that aired from 1960 to 1964, celebrated the highway's mystique and allure. Glenrio, with its vibrant community and essential services, played a pivotal role in this larger narrative. During the 1940s, 1950s, and 1960s, Glenrio was a bright spot along Route 66, providing a haven for travelers crossing the vast open desert of the High Plains. Its neon lights, diners, motels, and gas stations created a welcoming oasis in an otherwise sparse landscape. As the 1960s came to a close, significant changes loomed on the horizon for Route 66 and the communities that had flourished along its path. The Federal Aid Highway Act of 1956, which initiated the construction of the interstate highway system, aimed to create a network of faster, safer, and more efficient roads across the United States. While this was great for nationwide transportation, it spelled trouble for small towns that had grown dependent on the traffic from Route 66.
Traffic stopped. And I mean, it stopped. The highway was going around, and there was no sign of anything that there was a little town anywhere.
In September 1973, the construction of Interstate 40, I-40, bypassed Glenrio, redirecting the flow of travelers away from the town. The new interstate, designed for high-speed, long-distance travel, offered a more direct route for motorists, effectively rendering Route 66 obsolete in many areas. For Glenrio, this bypass was a critical blow, cutting off the lifeblood of traffic that had sustained its economy for decades. The immediate impact on Glenrio was stark and profound. Businesses that had once thrived on the steady stream of travelers began to suffer. The Texaco station and the Brownlee Diner and the other filling stations and motels saw a drastic reduction in customers. The economic vitality of the town dwindled as the interstate diverted traffic away from Glenrio's main street. By 1975, the decline of Glenrio was evident. The once thriving community experienced a sharp drop in revenue, leading to the closure of many businesses. The iconic neon signs that had once welcomed travelers flickered out, and the vibrant energy that characterized Glenrio during its peak years began to fade. The town's infrastructure fell into disrepair. The remaining businesses struggled to maintain their operations, and many buildings were abandoned. The silence of the empty streets contrasted sharply with the bustling activity that Glenrio had known for so many years. The post office, which had served the community since the 1930s, eventually closed, and the railroad tracks, once a vital part of Glenrio's economy, were removed in the 1980s. The decline of Route 66 was not just the story of a single town, but a national phenomenon. As more sections of the highway were bypassed by the interstate system, many communities faced similar fates. The spirit of adventure and the promise of prosperity that Route 66 symbolized were overshadowed by the march of progress and modernization. The decline of Glenrio mirrored the broader trend of small towns across America struggling to adapt to the new transportation landscape. Welcome back. If you guys are liking the video, hit the like, subscribe, comment. Got a lot more videos coming. Yeah. Despite the decline, Glenrio's legacy remained. The town was listed in the National Register of Historic Places in 2007. In the end, the story of Glenrio is a microcosm of the larger narrative of Route 66. It is a tale of dreams realized and dreams lost, of communities built and communities abandoned.